Distillery. How's it hanging? How's it happen? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. My Dark Fusion Systems, the best for your custom computing needs. They'll build the best custom PC for you. $100 off your entire build with the code CVPOD at darkfusionsystems.com. Links to the podcast below. Also hit that subscribe button. New episodes of the podcast every single Tuesday and Thursday. Now to our feature presentation. We are going to bring the Midwest emo and pop punk flavor to you. All the way from Pittsburgh, we have Old Neon on the podcast today with Drew, B, and Zach. We dive into how the band got started, why they are growing from a local and what they're going to be doing to a regional and national act, and we show you some of their music as well with a brand new song, whatever helps you sleep at night. We go in depth with it. You guys ready? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. Today, we're going all pop punk on your asses. Yeah, I said that. We're also going to infuse a little bit of indie rock in there and Midwest emo to really make you feel like, yeah, I love this stuff. Let's go listen to it. This band has a brand new song called Whatever Helps You Sleep at Night, which is out now. And they have been playing the 4 Chord Music Festival. They play in 2023. They're playing in 2024 as well. So you know it's the band you definitely want to go check out at some point because, hey, we're talking to them right now. So please welcome Drew and Zach from the band Old Neon to the podcast. So guys, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
What's up, dude? Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thank you.
That was a very kind intro, dude. You said the buzzword. You said the Midwest emo thing. We've been going for that for months now, dude.
He said the magic word. Yeah.
He said the thing.
It's like Pee-wee's Playhouse. Like, he said the magic word. Yay! So now we can celebrate. Now we can actually enjoy this episode. You know what? I said the magic word. We're already done. Thanks, guys. I'll see you later.
Yeah, it's been real, dude.
All right. It's been great. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah. But also, because of our conversation before we even got started with this, to the FBI agent listening on this conversation, hello.
Well, now it's on the internet. So, like, he's probably just listening to it.
Yes, for fun because of whatever the heck we're about to just talk about. So let's just dive into it. And one thing I always like to do, especially with bands that I find that are newer, that I really can't find that much about, is to try and find out as much as possible about them, about the origin story, everything about that. I really couldn't find much on you guys. Yeah. And this is one of my favorite questions to start out with. Can you guys give me the Old Neon origin story? And I'm talking like origin story, Iron Man 1 to start the whole entire Midwest emo cinematic universe that is about to happen right now. So let's hear your whole story in like origin story style epicness. Yeah.
Yeah. So it started around like the pandemic. Our bass player Sean just started the band with a couple of people who aren't in the band anymore. And I guess I can like really start from when I joined the band. I literally responded to an ad on Instagram, which I never do, that said like, we're looking for a singer in a band, DM us if you want to. And I like listened to their stuff on SoundCloud. They had some stuff posted with their old singer. And I was like, I think I can do this. I think this would be pretty cool. So then I went and joined the band. Very cool. Met the guys. Like when I like responded to the ad, I was like, oh God, I really hope they're not like high schoolers. That would be really awkward if I showed up and it'd be like, they're all like 5-10 years younger than I am. And then I go and they're all like 10 years older than I am. So I'm 26 now. I was 23 when I met them, so that made them like, I don't know, 90 in pop punk years or whatever. Yeah. And like yeah, so that's pretty much it, man. Yeah, like we all just loved this music and wanted to make our own stuff. Like I've been making my own stuff for a long time. Yeah.
All right, so we got Drew's story about the band. Now let's go to Zach. So Zach, what's your story about the band? How'd you get into this? And give the origin story of you to the band or the origin story of the whole entire band in general, because that's still hysterical that when Drew answered the message, he thought it might be a bunch of high schoolers, but it was a bunch of seasoned vets in the emo pop punk scene. And so it's like, oh, this is different. This is perfect. So how did you get involved in all this?
Yeah, it's funny. Drew said that at one point in time, I accidentally at like 23. Whenever I first started trying to get into bands, I accidentally joined a band of high schoolers. And as soon as I found out they were high schoolers, I just left all of the group chats that they added me to, because I was like, nope, absolutely not. So that's a very real fear. Drew, you're valid for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, so I was trying to join bands for a couple years, but like wasn't trying very hard, wasn't really doing much, but posting like drum videos on my Instagram. And yeah, I actually reached out at one point to a band called I Swallow Ghosts, who's an emo band around these parts who are really sick. And um they were looking for a drummer. I responded. They already filled the spot. And a couple years, maybe a year and a half, go by, and I just get a message from Old Neon Music on Instagram saying like, "Hey, are you still looking for a band?" I say yes, and he says, "Sean, join my band." And so 2 days later, I went and met the fellas, and we all hit it off. There's a lot of natural chemistry, and I was like the last permanent piece to be added, so I have the least amount of lore, because after that, I played my first show with the band about 2 weeks later, and then we started recording like a month after that, and so it's been full speed ahead, and this is kind of all I've known since.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the lineup changes have been kind of crazy. So like when I first joined, it was their old singer was playing guitar, Sean was playing bass, and we had this other guy on drums. And when I showed up, I was like, all right, we're vibing. This is the band. This is great. And then like 2 weeks after I joined, the guitar player left to be a lawyer, just said like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to be doing music anymore. And I was like, okay, I kind of liked you, so that sucks. Bye, I guess. Then we got Corey from I Swallow Ghosts, that band that Zach tried to join, to fill in on guitar for a little bit, until we found our permanent guitar player, Mike. And then later, the original drummer left. We pick up Zach. And yeah, at the end of 2023, they're about our bass player from the start, who started the band with Sean, Chris. He left the band just for personal reasons. There's no bad blood in like any of it. It's just like, we take it kind of seriously, and it becomes a bigger part of your life than a lot of people maybe signed up for or were prepared to commit that kind of time. So but yeah, we found ourselves in a really cool position where we were like, well, we could find another bass player, or we could find just another member in general to do other stuff. So like we found B, and yeah, B has just been like the coolest collaborator ever. They play guitar and like add some of the like more chuggy in like jangly bits, like the Midwest emo stuff, and the chunky breakdowny things as well. So like, yeah, it's been, B's joining right now. Let's go.
So yeah, we got B in here, and there's B. So B, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast, and thank you for joining in. We're about 8 minutes in already, so we got a lot of time with you. Perfect. So welcome.
Awesome. Nice to meet you.
Now the question is, Drew and Zach, do we roast B for being a little bit late, or do we let this one slide?
I could never roast B.
Yeah, no, B's
Can't
the
happen.
least roastable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Understandable. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try then, because, well, I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. So we're going to jump in right by asking you this question. So we heard about Drew and his whole entire journey joining the band. We heard about Zach's whole entire journey joining the band. Now I want to know about you. So when it came to Old Neon, how'd you get involved with all this, and how'd you become part of this band to really make it what it is right now?
Yeah, so I'm the newest member of the band. I actually only joined in January, so like 5 or 6 months ago. Um, so honestly, I was like a fan of Old Neon for like a while before I joined the band. I played in another band, and so was just like involved in the community and sort of met them that way. And was just a big fan of their music. Would go to their shows and stuff. And then like early this year, I saw that they were posting looking for a guitarist, and I was like, yeah, yeah. I was like, yep, I'm gonna definitely want to like audition for my favorite local band. And then here we are. So yeah.
Yeah, and we had tried out a couple different guitar players, and it was like as soon as you were in there and you knew all the songs, you were like super you were easy to like bounce ideas off of because we were like trying new shit while you were in the room too, and you were just like picking right up on it, adding your own flavor to it, and it was like, it was obvious to us like as soon as you left, we were like, oh yeah, B's the missing piece here. So yeah, it's been awesome like getting to collab with you, you know?
Well, to me, just hearing these different stories, it seems like overall, as time has gone on, and this seems like it's something that every band has to go through, where you start, of course, as the band continues to grow, as your reach continues to grow, it becomes a more important part of your daily lives. And some people just aren't ready for that commitment. Like you said, there's other members of the band that have left in the past because, for different various reasons. One guy wanted to become a lawyer. One person may have just left because, their priorities were in a different spot at that time. It totally makes sense. But as time continues to go on and the band continues to grow, the people that are more invested are going to be the ones that need to stay so that you can continue to grow the sound and you can continue to collaborate. And then when you have someone like B come in and join, then you have someone that's coming in who is able to bounce ideas off of, who's able to pick up on exactly everything you're working on and give their own flavor to the sound. So now it's even more collaborative. It's even more continually growing than compared to, the Drew and Zach idea of, fearful that you answer an ad and you're going to be working with a bunch of high schoolers who are just doing this just for fun when you're trying to actually make something of this, where, don't get me wrong, those high schoolers could be very talented, but it's a completely different animal when you're trying to build a band versus when you're trying to, just graduate high school and get to the next phase of life.
Yeah, yeah. Like there's a lot of unknowns with that, and it's just like, what do I have in common with a high schooler at this point? You know what I mean?
No, I wasn't even worried about like what do I have in common with these kids. I was like, they're gonna like want me to be their plug for Jewel Pods, and I'm not about it. Like, that was my fear.
That is a legitimate fear, though, because I could see the exact same thing. If I were to join a band right now and all of a sudden it's a bunch of high schoolers, I'm the plug for Jewel Pods. I'm the plug for literally anything vape-wise. I'm the plug for, hey, man, can you get us some beer? I'm like, no, I'm 29. I don't want to buy an 18, 19-year-old beer. That just makes no sense. Hell, when I go to a music festival and I have some kid like, hey, man, can you buy us some beer? I'm just looking like, why the hell would I even do that?
Because you'd be the coolest guy ever, dude. It'd be so sick.
At this point in life, I don't need to be the cool guy at festivals that hangs out with people that are under the age of 21. I'm like Steve Buscemi going up like, what up, fellow kids?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that pretty much.
Yeah. But like, to get back to your point about like collaboration with all of us. So like we had a song that was basically finished, that just came out not too long ago, Empty Frames. That like we were happy with it. We were like, okay, this could probably get released, and then we were just revisiting it in rehearsal, and it became a little bit more of an easy core thing with like Zach and B kind of locking in on certain parts, especially in the verses and like the outro. If you listen to it, you're like, oh, there's some stuff going on here that was like definitely not happening before. And it's cool. Like it just felt like the natural progression of the band,
But in the end, isn't that exactly what you want from a sound too? Because if you try and stay so in line with a specific sound, with a specific style, you're limiting any potential collaboration, any other ideas that may come in there. and you're restricting your overall creativity. So when you're creating something like Empty Frame and you're going through the idea, you're going through the motions, you're trying to put this together, but then you have B and Zach that are bouncing different easy core ideas off each other to add a little bit of a heaviness to the catchiness of that whole entire like pop punk flow. What's going to happen is you're going to test out and see, okay, can we work with this more easy core style at times? Can we implement in our music to make these certain parts stand out? Does it flow in our overall writing? Does this potentially work out? Because you could have the idea in your head, any of you could, and it could make a lot of sense. But you could also make it not a lot of sense, but you're never going to know unless you try it. And having the idea of collaboration and experimentation at the forefront, you're going to have the freedom as a group to be willing and to trust others with their ideas. So when this happens, you get something like this and you have an idea of, okay, where can we expand from here? We're seeing so many bands in rock and metal today where when they're becoming more bigger, the ones that are becoming more popular, the ones that are taking so many different ideas and putting their own flavor into it and really mixing together to see if it's going to work out for their whole style. I mean, there are so many bands out there that are doing, I mean, we wouldn't have Sleep Token popping off last year if they didn't try doing exactly what they did. We wouldn't have Bad Omens from 2022. We wouldn't have Bring Me the Horizon constantly reinventing themselves had that not be the case. And those are the bands that people are really gravitating towards because it's not only expanding these genres, but it's expanding what the overall concept of sound is. And it's showing that there is so much more that can be done with music than what people thought of 10 years ago.
Oh, for sure, dude. Yeah, and we're trying to experiment with that kind of stuff in our creative process too. Like just, you know, the way we used to do things and still kind of start things is like I or Sean or somebody would come to the table with like a pretty complete song idea. And for me, like I would basically demo it out start to finish and have like placeholder parts, but still it's like, this is the song, you know what I mean? So like, my thing was like, I'll have a stand-in lead guitar part, but I am not a lead guitar player. I'm going to give that to Mike or B or somebody to like fill that in. I'm not a drummer, but damn if my easy drummer shit doesn't sound tight these days. I'm going to be honest. Yeah. But like, you know what I mean? Like I'm going to be like, yeah, this is like the basic groove, but make it your own, Zach or whoever. And like, come with like, again, the song is like basically done, and then we'll have like suggestions here and there that like either end up working or not working. And yeah, we would just work on it until we're all happy with it, and then that's the song. But lately we've been experimenting with like actually starting stuff in the room. So like someone will come up with one riff and then we'll just kind of be like, okay, where does that go next? Where does that go? And it's just like, we're starting to learn how to work with each other that way to come up with some stuff. And I think we got some really cool stuff. Like a few of the times that we've tried it, we just did it last night as well. And yeah, we finished running our set for the festival. We're like, okay, that's everything we like need to get done this practice. Now let's see where we can go next with like the stuff we're figuring out. So that's been really fun too. I think we're coming up with some really tight shit that way.
But just kind of what you talked about when it comes to how you guys are creating these songs and how you used to versus where now you're starting to see more of experimentation with the creation process, that shows two major things. One, to me at least, one, it shows the willingness to adapt. Where, again, you had different people join the band. You have Zach, you have B, Sean, Mike, and of course, Drew yourself as well. And as different people enter the band at different times, you know, the idea of what's going to work between all of you and the chemistry is going to change. So by being able to adapt to that overall style, you're going to be able to collaborate more. You're going to be able to create more. And you're going to be able to drive together on building a song based off of whatever riff you start out with, whatever drum pattern you start out with, and building the emotional journey and the emotional storytelling that you're going to go from start to finish on that song all together. But the other way it comes up is where it's just, again, you're evolving as songwriters and you're becoming a little bit more serious with this where, yeah, you might be doing it all together, might be a little bit more free flowing and let these things build as is, but you're doing it all together and you're letting this really happen. So you're taking the seriousness of what it means to be in a band, to be in something that this is artistically creative, and trying to grow it to a certain capacity that you want it to get to. You're taking those necessary steps in the creative side, but you're doing it on your own terms as well, which again is going to be something that's incredibly important to create that overall sound and that overall core of what Old Neon is that you're really going for.
Yeah. And, we are really trying to do that kind of thing, like be self-sufficient and not just creatively, but just in everything that we do. Like my favorite show that we've done to date, this just happened this year. It was our 420 show, and that was it was just kind of thrown together in like we planned it like within a month, and we booked a lot of our friends to play. B's other band, My Favorite Liar, actually opened the show, and we just did it in this distillery where we sent them a DM on Instagram, and we were like, hey, can we have a show here? And they were like, yeah, just send us a flyer. And we were like, so do we have to like pay you? Or and they were like, nah. And we were like, all right, cool. That was easy. So we booked that show. Like we provided all the sound. And our friends at Good Vibes Entertainment provided the sound. And yeah, dude, it was crazy. We had like 250 people through the door just for like a DIY show. It was nuts. And we're like, okay, we're like really building something here,
So let me get this straight. You had 250 people come through the door for a DIY show at a distillery on 420, and you didn't even have to pay the venue to use that space.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Well, even think about too, when it's like, if you're going to have it at a distillery too, I mean, that's also only drawing a crowd that's 21 and over. Who knows about the crowd that was not able to go to the show just based on the fact of its location. But again, it shows the connection of that you're making. It shows that people are wanting to go out and check you out, especially from a local side. So it adds to that next step of, okay, where can you go from here? You're able to build up a fan base with your sound. You're able to build it up from the local side of things. So now the main thing is then when it comes to Old Neon, when it comes to becoming more of a regional band or more of a national act, how is that transition going to be, and how are you going to take the action to get there?
Yeah, well, our plan right now is to kind of leverage what we have in Pittsburgh. So like we know we can put on a show, and if we're really pushing it, like we can draw like 200 people to a venue. And we could do it in like a DIY kind of thing, or we could do it at like, real venues. I use air quotes, but whatever. So we're thinking of doing like show trades with bands and markets that we want to get into. So like bands from New York, Philly, Cleveland, get them out here for a show, and then they book us in their place. That's kind of the way forward for us, I think.
Interesting. I like the idea of the show trade though, because then you're still having a show by you guys where you're able to know what kind of size crowd you're able to pull. But then you're able to get out to a different market as well and still see what size of a crowd that other band is able to pull in their own hometown, but also being able to maximize out to try and get out with that other band and see what else you can do in that market. And especially because in Pittsburgh, you're kind of in an interesting spot, just given the fact that if you do show trades with bands a little bit further west of you, now you're in more of that Midwest area where you could get the Midwest emo, you get the pop punk side of things, because anything in the Midwest, rock and metal still reigns pretty heavily in these parts. I mean, I'm wearing a shirt I'm a Wisconsin shirt because technically I live like right here. So it kind of makes sense. I know what I'm talking about with this area. But if you go further east on the eastern seaboard, there are so many other cities with so many large populations where you're going to be able to hit on certain markets and get in those areas and get into those local scenes as well and become more of like that. Like, we know this is a regional act, and that's where you get to the next step and the next step and the next step. So the plan is there. The key is just execution at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think doing it that way, like when you're working with bands that are already sort of where we're at in Pittsburgh, just in their own market. Like I feel like that's the way to do it, because if we were to book like a 2 week long tour hitting all those cities that are around us, like I don't think it'd be worth it, because it'd be like who would show up to see a band they've never seen before and pay real actual money for it. Like it just doesn't make sense. And also like logistically for us, like we all have real jobs and lives that we can't just up and leave for 2 weeks most of the time, so doing like these weekenders where it's very easy to go out and like, okay, play 1 or 2 or 3 shows and then come back. Yeah, that just makes the most sense for us right now.
That makes sense. All right, Zach and B, what do you think about this overall plan? Is this something that you think is absolutely going to work, that you're down for? Or is it something you're like, you know what, I got another idea. Let's collaborate on this and let's see if this works.
Yeah, I mean, my plan the whole time has been to just go viral on TikTok and call it a day. Um, no, I would love to go more places, play to more new faces, make some new friends. Because yeah, I mean, we've got such a great crew here in Pittsburgh, and like, you come to an old Neon show in Pittsburgh and everyone knows everyone at this point, and it's like really, really beautiful. And it's the whole reason why I got into this sort of thing, is to like have a community. And the hope is that it doesn't stop there, right? That we can have a community that reaches a little further than that, if not a lot further. And so, I mean, yeah, that begins with, getting out of town, finding some new folks to team up with and some new folks to play to. And, yeah, I mean, like what's better than that, really? I mean, is taking the show on the road and just seeing what happens with it, seeing who else we can, forge some new friendships with. That I think, for exactly what Drew was saying, Weekenders is like the logical place to start. Make it like manageable and scalable, and see what the next step is after that, if there is a next step. We're at a point kind of where it's like hard to know exactly what to do, but it's a good problem to have, to be like, oh, so like playing out of town is the next step. Well, I mean, like it's really hard to get there in the first place, so it's yeah, like I said, it's just a good problem to have, and hopefully that's something that we're able to do some more.
I think there are two things in that, Zach, that you said that really stand out to me, that any younger band or any band that's in the same position that you are should learn from. The first is this manageable and is this scalable? Because you want to make sure it's scalable to continue to grow and continue to get better, but you also don't want to, put it way too much into scale and like really grow it to the point where it's out of control. And then you really don't, and then you're kind of left behind as in your own personal lives. You want to make sure you can manage both sides of it and continue to grow it, so you can continue to grow with it, not only as a band, but as individuals as well. But the other thing too that you said that really stands out to me is you guys are in an interesting spot where you have built up that community at home. You've built up a strong sense of community, which is what you want to do. And you want to go and take this out further and build that community, not only that you have in Pittsburgh, but continue to build it in other places as well. But, how do you do it? And if you're not sure how to do it, the best thing to do is just to make a decision at that point and then just go and try something. Because the worst thing you can do is, I don't know what to do right now, and then sit and do nothing based off of fear of not knowing what to do. Because then you're never going to get anywhere. But the fact that you guys have an idea of, I'll try these weekender runs, I'll try these show swap runs, that could very well work. And if it's something that doesn't work out as well as you would have hoped, at least you tried, and at least you gave it a shot, so that you can try something else, following that, and see where it goes, basically.
Yeah, man. And like, it's sad to see like a lot of bands at this point, like sort of plateau. Mm-hmm. And we're very aware of that. Like, we don't want to plateau creatively, and we don't want to plateau in like the scale that we're seeing right now. So it's like, yeah, like we're trying everything we can to like keep it fresh and to play more shows and different places, that kind of thing.
Again, it makes a lot of sense. And now, I mean, I heard from Zach. Let's hear from B. So B, when it comes to the overall growth and scalability of Old Neon, what are your thoughts on the overall idea, and where do you see this going?
Yeah, I really what Zach said about sort of like how we have this kind of community. I like, yeah, that's like one of my favorite things I think about sort of doing this is like having that community, like, you know, going to shows and everybody knows everybody and everybody's supporting everybody and the bands are supporting each other. And yeah, so I really like the idea of just sort of making that bigger. And also kind of like, I know that like in other cities, like these communities also exist with other bands and, you know, the people that live there. And so like going to sort of find the people, like we found our people in Pittsburgh and now it's sort of like, you know, we want to go find our people that are outside of Pittsburgh. And yeah, so I think, yeah, I'm excited to sort of get to start exploring other places and other communities and yeah, so I think it's a great plan.
I would have to agree. And what you said too, where you have the community, but you have the ability to explore other communities as well. You don't just have, like, you know what you have in Pittsburgh, but now you can jump a little bit further west. You can go to find out what's over in Cleveland, what's in Detroit. You can go east, find out what's in the Lancaster area, what's over in Philadelphia, what's in New York. You can go over that, just all these different realms. And you know, with a lot of these places too, especially the ones that have that musical background to them, and you know some of the bands that are from those areas, whether they're bigger or smaller, you know they build up a sense of community at some standpoint. So as time continues to go on, you can figure out, okay, where do we fit in these communities in terms of overall fans, and who are we going to attach to the best? Who's going to really take to us at first? And where can we, you know, not only, I wouldn't say insert yourself in a community, but become part of that community, and with your music and with your art, bring value to so many other people around there. And now I'm talking in a weird business sense, but like bring value so that people, when they listen to your music, they feel connected to it. It brings them happiness. It brings them joy. It brings them a feeling of belonging to maybe a different community, or feeling belonging even with themselves, so that when you show up again, they want to come and see you live, because through your music and through your art and through your building of that sense of community, you give them so much and they want to be a part of that even more.
Yeah. And like to that point, that's why we put such a big emphasis on like the live show has to be like super duper tight. Because to ask people to come out to shows is like kind of a big ask. You know, it's like, okay, you have to pay for your ticket at the door, and like you're giving up whatever else you could have been doing that night. You know, maybe you're buying merch, maybe you're buying drinks. It's just like, you know, money and time. So like make it worth their while. That's how you get people to support local art. You make sure they have a good fucking time, and then they keep coming back, you know?
That's not just to get people to support local art. That's what even the biggest bands that are out there, are the ones that are massively growing, have to continue to do, because we're dealing with not only in here in America, but all over, we're dealing with inflation. We're dealing with prices consistently increasing, and our wages aren't increasing. We all know this, especially work full-time jobs, and our time is limited. It's very set in what it is. And I love the thumbs up that just popped up in Zach's little thought bubble right there. So there it is again. I've seen that happen a little bit more and more now, and it's hysterical what it does. But where I was going with that is, as a band and as an artist, especially if you're trying to get people to come and see a live show, you want to make sure that, you know, they're going to get their money's worth when it comes to seeing the music, seeing the show. And if they're buying merch, if they're going to be buying drinks, or if they have to get a babysitter for that night, you want to make sure that by the time the show is over and they're going home, they think that it was absolutely worth it because of the experience you were able to provide from a live setting. Whether it's from your live show, whether it's from the people they meet at the show and the community that you build around there, and just the atmosphere as a whole. It's something that you have to be aware of as times have changed and have things are getting more expensive, but it's still something that the bands that hit on that are the ones where people are going to actually continue to shell out more and more money to make sure they go and see, because the guarantee that people are going to have a good time is there. Perfect example of that, especially in the rock and metal world right now, Electric Callboy. If you go and see Electric Callboy live, you know it's going to be one hell of a good time. So even if the tickets are like $50, $60, you're going to be willing to spend that money because by the time the show is over, you know you're going to have an absolute blast.
Yeah, for a second,
Drew got very excited.
Yeah, he did.
mistook the band name that you said. I mistook them for the Callous Daoboys.
Not even close.
Not even close.
Yeah, I know. Dude, that was a smooth brain moment.
That was a smooth brain moment.
Brain on some smooth shit right now.
I would love to say, oh yeah, I would love to say,
Not
you know,
even.
Drew, I'd love to say the Callous Daoboys actually absolutely bring it, but there's only one problem with that. I've actually never seen the band live yet, so I'm like, can't really agree with you on that if I know if they bring it or not. I mean, I want to go see them live, so.
I did sound for them once at the Pittsburgh venue that they performed at Craft House. So there was like some issue with them getting there before doors, so like they couldn't get a sound check. They got there like 10 minutes before they were supposed to play. Like before they were supposed to play music to a crowd of people. So they literally like pulled up the van and we were bucket brigading, like just getting all their shit on stage as quickly as possible. And we got them from like in their vehicle to on stage like only 5 minutes after they were supposed to start playing. It was chaos and they were fucking great.
That is some serious dedication right there from everyone that worked in that venue that night that was part of the Bucket Brigade to get that going. That is some serious dedication. I applaud you and everyone else for that.
We had like me, it was another sound guy, and then like the security was helping out, the promoter was doing everything he could, so like it was fucking cool. Yeah.
Well, again, and you're not going to have people putting the time and effort in that if they don't believe in the community, they don't believe in the music that's being put out there. So again, you guys have that community. You guys have it built, so well done.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Now, I would kick my own ass if I didn't even ask about this or bring it up because I want more people to check out your music, too. I want to get people interested in it, and the most recent single that you've released at time of recording this, a song called Whatever Helps You Sleep at Night. So for everyone that hasn't heard this song, what can you tell us about it? Because, of course, it's out already, people listen to, but let's give people an inside scoop into what went into the making of this song. So let's hear it.
Yeah, man. So it started with me literally Googling Midwest emo tuning because I had never played anything in like an open tuning before. I'm so serious right now, dude. Like, and it was a YouTube video of a British guy, and he said it's FACGCE, and I tuned my guitar to that and strummed it once, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I didn't even finish the video, and I was just kind of like messing around on there and like just kind of figuring out how to make sounds that were like, you know, good and legible. And I didn't even know what chords I was playing. I just ended up sort of finding some stuff that worked well together. And I was like, okay, this can be like the outline for a song. And it's in this like open tuning. So it's super easy to just let lyrics flow and like melodies and everything. The song sort of like wrote itself at a certain point, and I was like, okay, this is great. We're cooking with it now. Yeah, and just brought it to the band. Same thing I explained earlier with like it was pretty fully demoed out, but it was like, hey, these are the general parts, but like feel free, fill in what you can yourselves. And yeah, like the second verse especially, Zach brought some really cool drum stuff to it. That was fun to like figure out in rehearsal because I had written a part that was like not really what a real drummer could do. So yeah. So yeah, once we had like the music done, we like produced the final version, and we're all like self-produced. So we'll record drums at a friend's house, Evan Yester. And he gets like the best sounding drum recordings I've ever heard in my life, honestly. Like I've gotten drums back from professional studios where you're spending a ton of money and they don't sound as good as these drums that we're getting in our pal's basement. It's fucking amazing. So like that's the first step. and like the finished product that we do. Then we'll do everything else in my home studio here. Yeah, vocals, guitars, bass, all the like post production stuff, and then our friend Matt Rosmeyer mixes it, and bada bing, bada boom, you got yourself an old Neon song.
So now the real question is, so does that British guy have any other videos besides that where he gives you
Could
different
not tell
tunings?
you.
You might want to check that out, because if he gave you the tuning and all of a sudden you strum it like, oh my God, this is the Midwest emo I've been hoping for. Maybe he's got some other ideas too that, you strum it once and all of a sudden, okay, now you're picking up on the next song. So Zach and B, you might want to hold him to that.
It's not a bad idea. I gotta Google Midwest emo tuning 2 and just see what comes up. See if that's dropped yet.
Midwest emo tuning 2, Electric Boogaloo.
I think there's several. I'm no guitarist, but I think there's several. You have the whole lot to choose from.
You probably do, but going with it, especially on this song, I thought it was a great idea to really work alongside that, because as the song is going from front to end, it does have more of that fun pop punk flair to it and some of that energy to it. But the overall tune, you can tell it has that Midwest emo, some more of those indie ideals to it as well. But that's what allows the vocals to really flow together and drive the overall emotion of the song from its, thematic concept for what I thought was, trying to move on from somebody in your life, whether they were, good for your life or bad for your life, or just trying to get past and be like, okay, they're in the past. I got to let them be and I got to let them go.
Yeah. And that's kind of what it is. And I appreciate you saying that about the production and the vocals, man. That's really kind. Yeah, like, I guess lyrically, the way that I write, it's a lot of the time I'll have like a more or less finished instrumental, and then I'm just sort of singing over it and making sounds and melodies. Like there's no real words just yet. And then out of that, you'll pluck a few sounds that kind of sound like words, and you're like, at night, sleep at night, whatever helps you sleep at night. Oh, that's the hook. Okay, cool. How can we like expand on this kind of thing? So yeah, it makes sense and it doesn't. You know what I mean? I think the verses are pretty cohesive. And I think overall, like, it's all pointing to the same place. But I mean,
yeah. to me, that style of songwriting and style of lyric writing really makes sense, because at that point in time, the instrumentals, the way the guitars are tuned, the way that the overall riff is, the way the drums are patterned, everything behind that Zach's doing, that B's doing, that Sean's doing, that Mike is doing, is going to drive so much of the emotional connection to the song, the emotional flow of the song. So when you're trying to vocal pattern it out, you're feeling those emotions. So you're kind of getting that emotional storytelling from front to back. And now you're adding words to it to add a theme to it, to really add that overall story, so we can really drive and really connect with the emotion as individuals, as listeners, from start to finish. So that's why for me, hearing how you built the vocals on this one and built the lyrics, it absolutely makes sense as to how good the connection is between the lyrics and the story and the overall flow of the song from beginning to end.
Yeah, like you reach a point in the creative process where you feel like you're kind of discovering the song rather than synthesizing it, and that's how like, okay, we're really onto something. But then again, like, there's some songs, man, where you're just like, okay, we're gonna try a million different things and like sort of scratch the bottom of the barrel, and eventually you find up with something. You come up with something. So, this was one of those fortunate times though, where it's like, okay, I was just chiseling away this sculpture almost, and sort of just discovering what the instrumental was trying to say the whole time. At least that's how I feel anyway. And I feel like it was a song that I wrote not for the musician that I was at the time, but for the musician that I was like aspiring to be. And it's been cool, like, over the past year or so that we've been like working on this song and like fleshing it out. I feel like I have become that person that I wanted to be when I started writing it. So it's really cool how that kind of stuff happens.
It is, and it's a really cool transition from where you were to where you are. But now the most important thing is where you are now, where are you going to go? So when it comes to Old Neon, what can we expect coming up in the future? Because now I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, we're already cooking some stuff. Like our Google Drive is ridiculous. Like there's like 20 demos that we're just like going to be going through over the next few months and just seeing what we can make work. We have like two that are basically ready to get recorded already. And I think we're going to keep like the same process with these, where it's just like we're going to do record the drums and then build it up from there, and yeah, stay self-produced. And sort of my goal for this is like my original goal for the band was to do like a song a month every month forever. Yeah, and yeah, it just is not a realistic thing for a band like us. Like for some artists, like it totally makes sense if you're not collaborating with 4 other people and all have to, agree on stuff. And moreover, like even when you do agree on stuff, it's like logistically, okay, now I have to record all this shit and make it sound good and get it mixed. And that just the treadmill gets too fast. Okay. And I'm short. I'm 5'4". I can't run that damn fast. Okay. But yeah, like I think in the future we're just going to be doing singles at like a more regular pace, like one every month and a half, 2 months. I think that's pretty reasonable.
It's pretty, I mean, whatever's reasonable for you guys, but also when it comes to the whole single game as well, think about this. That's where the industry really is. That's where the music industry is as a whole. So you're kind of playing into what's going to potentially help you can grow your overall audience and your overall reach from an online setting. So it kind of fits, especially in that realm, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that's kind of where that's where everyone's going, is short form releases, whether that's single or EP. And I have a fondness for a full length album, and like I struggle with it internally, but it's one of those things where, it's kind of like, if you can't beat them, join them. And we're definitely not going to beat them, because we're little old Neon from Pittsburgh. And so, and it's been working well whenever we have stuff to maintain that pace and keep a steady flow of stuff coming out, rather than just like, hey, here's a big thing and then silence for a long time. It's hard to maintain momentum doing that, especially like, a band as small as us.
That makes sense too. If you can't beat them, join them. But at the same time, you're trying to do what you can in order to grow the band to where you want it to grow. And you're not going to do that by, doing what used to work and what would work back in 2005 and 2006. It's 2024. The stuff that worked back then ain't going to work now. So you gotta go all Bear Grylls on it. Improvise, adapt, overcome. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Next EP, we're jumping out of a helicopter.
Oh shoot! Can I be the pilot for that as you guys jump out of it? I've never flown a helicopter before, but it sounds like fun.
That was going to be my first question.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
And if not, then yeah, you're gonna jumping in the cockpit, dude. Let's fucking go.
I'm gonna take Zach's yes and roll with it. Well, I have one more question for you three, and it's something I like to ask every single band I bring on. It helps me and the rest of the audience to get to know more about the new music that you love. So I have 3 of you here, so I'm looking for one from each of you. Collectively, can you give me 3 bands that you love that you want to see more people get into?
B, you want to go first?
That's such a hard question.
I know, dude.
I gotta think for a sec.
I know it's a tough question. I would love to go like, just drop as many names as possible, but if I have 3, it's a lot more effective to get those artists a lot more recognition. So I kind of have to limit it a little bit.
Okay, I'm gonna limit it even more. And I'm gonna give you one. Heading north from Pittsburgh, there are friends. And they are so, oh my God, they're so good. They're ridiculously good. They make like pop punk. Like if you like us, you'll like Heading North. If you don't like us, you'll like Heading North. Fucking just go
Yeah,
listen
they're
to
better.
Heading North.
See,
That's my
a
pitch.
great. I mean, that's a great pitch. So I got Drew's one. I got two more. I've got Zach. I got B. Between the two of you, need one each. Let's hear it.
Man, you ask such a difficult question. Um, I, I'm gonna say Mallory Run, who they're playing day one of Four Chord, and they're homies as well. Um, they just they they're hard to describe. They're dynamic. They're mathy at times. They're real powerful. It's like, say, if you took like a Midwest emo band and dialed up the punch. And I just really fucking love that shit, man. I love when a song reaches out of the speakers and punches me in the face, and they do that. And um, their vocalist, Dan, is incredible. Their drummer, Tommy, also provides some incredible vocals and some sick drum parts. And they write really great lyrics, and I could go on and on, but Mallory Run and also Heading North.
That's a good call. All right, B, you're up.
Oh man. All right, we're on like the local theme. Drew, should I actually say that one?
Yeah.
Drew told me to say my other band.
Oh,
My other
absolutely.
band.
Say your other band.
I'll say my other band. That's a really bad answer, but my first two picks would be the ones that were already said. So yeah, my other band's called My Favorite Liar, and we're putting out an EP on Friday.
Oh, shoot. So everyone is going to be able to listen to a brand new EP from B. This is awesome.
Woo!
I was like, everyone's listening to EP from B. That rhymes. I'm turning to Dr. Seuss here. Jeez. I'll see myself out because I'm getting old. Oh, God. I'm starting to grow a beard. Wolf white. Ah!
Oh, and I also, because I feel like that's like kind of I can't really just say myself. That's bad. But in terms of not necessarily a local band, but a band in the genre that I think is still highly underrated, is Origami Angel. Played on day one of Four Chord last year. And yeah, I think everyone should listen to them.
All right, I will gladly take that, but I will also, when I put the whole entire little clip together of like, oh, the three bands, we're definitely putting your other band in there, B, because we help out here.
Right.
I want you to, actually, I was hoping you were going to say your other band as well, because I'm like, you're right here. This is the perfect time to plug it, so.
Yeah.
Come on. So I want to thank you, all three of you, for not only the suggestions, but for an incredible time today on the podcast. Absolutely love it. I'm going to end this podcast with three things. So first things first, when it comes to Old Neon, like I said, they recently released a song called Whatever Helps You Sleep at Night. And if the plan is to release new songs every month and a half to 2 months, more new music is going to come to fill up your hearts with great pop punk and Midwest emo all at the same time. So the best thing you can do is go to script for the podcast where it says find Old Neon online. Links and labels for everything are going to be there social media wise, so you can follow along with them, know when they're playing live shows, and where you can stream their music, buy it, get some merch. All of it's going to be down there. I am Google for you now, so don't miss out on this. Drew's cat says so. So.
Oh yeah. She's being an asshole right now. Anyway.
And now it's time for number 2. So all three of you, when it comes to having guests on the podcast and join the podcast, I tend to make a certain promise as a way to say, thank you for being on the podcast, and I would love to continue to support the band in the future. So my promise to you is this. It is a when. When I get to see you perform live for the first time, well, if it's in Pittsburgh, it'll be a clear standout because, like you said, everyone knows everybody, but no one's going to know me at that point in time. So I'll be like, hey, who's the weird guy? Oh, wait, that's just the guy that did an interview with us. Why is he here? Because when I see you perform live for the first time, I will go all Liam Neeson from Taken on your asses. I will look for you. I will pursue you. I will find you. I will say hi, and first round's on me.
Let's go, man. Sweet. Yeah, if you ever come through Pittsburgh, you got a place to crash with us, dude.
Oh, perfect. That means I get to save on
Yeah.
hotel costs and Airbnb, and I don't have to sleep in my car. Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
Which means the second round is also on you.
Which means at this point, I'm just have to bring a whole case of beer and just be like, offering.
There you go. Yeah.
I
Well, dude,
have
I
done
wanna
that before.
I want to take this time to like thank you too, man, because we don't do a whole lot of podcasts. I don't know if that was apparent with how fucking awkward we are, but yeah, dude, it was really kind of you to have us on and help us get the word out about the band.
I'll say it seemed a little apparent, but that's what I love about being able to talk to bands from all over the place of all sizes, because I never know what bands I'm going to find, never know what personalities I'm going to find, never know what stories I'm going to find. And if they're going to be great stories, great personalities, and great music, I want to bring it to the forefront so more people know about it.
Ugh, doing the Lord's work, dude.
Yeah, you're doing a service.
As I ascend. And now it's time for number 3. So as we bring this to conclusion, I cannot end this by saying goodbye. That is way too final. I made a promise to the 3 of you, and I would love to have you back on the podcast again in the future. So my friends, this is not goodbye. This is, I'll see you later.
Woo!
Well, folks, an interview with Drew, B, and Zach from the band Old Knee. And now it's time for Kevin's final thoughts. So this band clearly has built up quite a following in their local scene around Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And it's pretty clear. I mean, if they were going to throw a show in a distillery and somehow manage to get 250 people to come in, again, you're not letting anyone in under the age of 21. And those younger kids still would go to some shows like this. So you're able to pull that in there. You definitely built up a great community and a great local scene. But you, as the Old Neon said, they want to expand on that. So when it comes from expanding from local to regional, what's potentially the best way to go about that? And they brought up a couple of great ideas. The show swap idea, where they go and play a show with another band in another market, let's say Philadelphia, Cleveland, New York, Detroit, and then they play a show in their home market with that same band. So now you're able to connect with their fans as well and get a much larger fan base based off of that, and get positive recognition from the local scene with another band at, like, basically kind of having that, like, yeah, we're signing off on this as a high quality act that you need to go and see. The understanding that they have to put on a great live show is paramount, especially as costs increase for people to go out and see concerts. So they're much more limited with what the money they're able to spend on these shows. So you want to make sure that when they see these shows, they have the time that they need to have in order to become a fan and come back. But also making sure that it's manageable and scalable, because if you scale way too much and you grow way too fast, you might get burnt out, you might lose your way, and you might, completely just combust within yourself and collapse in yourself. You don't want that. But the other thing they brought up too was, maybe you don't know where to start, especially if you're at that standpoint. But doing nothing doesn't move you anywhere. Doing something will at least move you somewhere. And if it works out for the positive, great. If it doesn't, you switch course and you try something different, and they have the mindset to do that. So I want to thank Gold Neon for coming to the podcast, bringing all that up. When it comes to getting their Midwest emo pop punk flavored sound, go subscribe to the podcast, which says Find Old Neon online. Links levels for everything for them is going to be down there for you to follow along with this band, listen to them, check them out, and see them play live. Also, make sure you follow along with the Chord Progression Podcast. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hit subscribe to the podcast channel right down here. Be sure to also follow along with us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You get the audio version there as well. So thank you for joining with us. Thank you, friends of Old Neon, Drew, B, and Zach. I'll see you next time. On that note, that's going to be for me today. Thank you guys for watching to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one of these episodes. Big, healthy, and hearty. See ya!